Morning again, everyone. I'm here now to introduce this year's keynote speaker. Josh Grau is a Medill IMC alum from 2004 and is the current Global Director of Content Strategy for Twitter. In this role, he oversees Twitter's first editorial team, responsible for content curation and development of the Twitter Moments platform, as well as leading partner marketing efforts for the global media arm of the company. Josh started at Twitter in 2010 as the first hire in the newly formed revenue organization, and shortly after launched the Global Brand Strategy Team, Twitter's in-house creative group helping Twitter generate over $1 billion in revenue in just its fourth year offering advertising. Prior to Twitter, he worked for YouTube, where he helped launch the first efforts around branded content, as well as ESPN, where he led integrated marketing across their multimedia channels. A true wildcat, Josh spent over 10 years on the Northwestern campus. In addition to earning his master's in IMC, he was the associate head coach of the varsity women's volleyball team from 2000 to 2004 and served as both a lecturer and program director for the Masters in Sports Administration program in the School for Continuing Studies from 2005 to 2010. Josh holds a master's in education in sport management from the University of Texas and received a Bachelor of Science in psychology from the University of Florida. He currently sits on the board of trustees for the Women's Sports Foundation, Billie Jean King's organization focused on creating equal opportunities for women in sport, and has recently reunited with volleyball as a television color analyst for the Pac-12 network. As you can see, Josh is an extremely accomplished Medill alum. We are so proud to have him here with us today. Please now join me in welcoming Josh Grau.
Yay!
It's 100% fiction. So my first order of business is I have to tweet a photo of it's like the law, when you bring someone from Twitter. So I'm going to come over here. You guys. All right. Let's see. What should I say here? Future rock stars. 2015. All right, it's been tweeted, and hopefully I have 150 new followers. All right, enough about that. Well, I can't tell you how honored and humbled I am to be here. First, a huge thanks to Dean Ham and the great folks at Medill for inviting me to come to Evanston today. It's really amazing to be back here with the outstanding faculty and staff who work so hard day in and day out to make Medill really tick. Thanks for everything that you all have done for me to make Northwestern and Medill a place you truly want to come back to. But the stars of today's show are the graduates, so congratulations to all of you. You've weathered many quarters of early mornings, long days, late nights, a crappy diet, no exercise, writer's block, insomnia, stress, anxiety. In other words, the best couple of years of your entire life. No, but seriously, great job. I know firsthand how much work it takes to get to this point, so it's a huge accomplishment and you should feel proud. Totally exhausted, but proud. I'd also like to acknowledge the husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, parents, kids, siblings, and friends here today who helped get the graduates over the finish line. I'm sure you've each played banker, tutor, chauffeur, and psychologist along the way, so congratulations to you all for enduring the best couple of years of their lives. But enough about you, let's talk about me. Full disclosure, and Frank talked about this being a day of firsts, I've never given a commencement address. Sure, I do a lot of public speaking for my job, and recently they paid me somehow to talk on TV, but truth be told, that's pretty easy. Not this. The turmoil and trauma that comes with writing a graduation speech is the real deal, especially when it's your alma mater. I mean, if you guys were 22-year-old undergraduates, this would be smooth sailing, a total cakewalk, namely because you'd likely all be hungover. Under those conditions, I could say anything so long as it wasn't too loud. But you're not 22-year-old undergraduates. You're mature, very discerning graduate students who by now should be able to hold your liquor. So as an alumnus, my number one goal is to conclude this speech without any of you questioning your decision to get a master's degree from Northwestern. As a human, my number one goal is to conclude this speech without receiving bomb reviews over Twitter. But seriously, I promise I'll try and make a point. So in thinking about what I wanted to say today, I reflected a lot on my experience here at Northwestern, and in particular, the IMC program. It was here that I learned, among so many things, the power of storytelling. So I'll take a little trip down memory lane. It seemed like every lecture by Frank Mulhern was an amazing fireside chat. I still wish I still had the guy's book recommendations. John Greening's master classes in advertising got me so excited about helping brands tell their stories, especially after hearing about his legendary work with Anheuser-Busch. And then there was Paul Wang, who magically taught the principles of marketing through artistic and seemingly unconventional and far-fetched analogies, such as the story of Maya Lin and her conviction when designing the controversial Vietnam Memorial. It was 2 years of a lot of wow moments thanks to those guys and so many others. So in preparing for you today, your graduation day, I was thinking about my experiences in the classroom and since graduating that have impacted who I am and how I act. I haven't had the most conventional journey, but I'm so grateful for the different twists and turns I've encountered throughout my professional path. So then I started thinking about paths, and that reminded me of a wonderful and classic children's story called Harold and the Purple Crayon, written by Crockett Johnson in 1955. If you're not familiar, I highly recommend getting a copy for your desk or your bookshelf, or at least Googling it on your phones that most certainly aren't turned off right now. Children's books are super fascinating, namely because they so often aptly reflect the trials and tribulations of adult life. So today I thought I'd share some of my personal experiences through the lens of Harold and his Purple Crayon. Hopefully you'll find a little wisdom in what I share and apply it as you all continue on your own journey. For those unfamiliar, the Reader's Digest version of an already short story goes something like this. Harold is an imaginative four-year-old little boy who uses his purple crayon to draw adventures for himself. He starts out wanting to take a walk in the moonlight, so he draws a moon and a straight path to follow. But soon after he starts his journey, he becomes a little bored, so he draws himself off that straight path. Along the way, he creates a series of dilemmas, but then he quickly uses his purple crayon to draw himself out of those jams. The moon he drew in the beginning of the story follows him across every step of his journey, eventually helping him find his way home. Pretty simple, but I'm going to unpack it a little bit from my perspective. So the story has a few important symbols thread throughout, so I want to first talk about Harold's crayon. Think of the crayon as an embodiment of your resourcefulness, the things you've learned that enable you to solve problems and help draw out a path to success. Its sturdiness represents your hard skills. Its warm and cool hues represent your soft skills. And as luck would have it, Harold's crayon is purple, naturally paying tribute to the amazing Northwestern experience you've just completed. So next I want to talk about two other important symbols, Harold's path and the concept of the traveling moon. First, the path. What Harold first attempts to do is essentially what we all do. We map out our professional and personal lives with what I'd like to describe as linear rigor. If it's not straight, it's clearly broken. But here's the thing, veering off course is okay. Taking risks and chances is part of the journey, and often the parts of the path with the most resistance end up teaching us the most important lessons. My path wasn't very straight. I wasn't the prototypical graduate student in the IMC program. The majority of my classmates had spent several years gaining valuable business experience, but I had spent those same years as a Division I volleyball coach. I was definitely successful, but I had veered off that original marketing path that I had started once upon a time to take advantage of another opportunity, coaching. And that felt right at the time. But then I knew it was time to head into another direction, and IMC proved to be the professional Waze or Apple Maps that I needed. I was fortunate to be allowed to shape my IMC experience as I needed to. I spent half my time up here in Evanston with the full-time crew, the other half downtown with the part-time students. So even the IMC portion of my path wasn't particularly straight. But it worked out perfectly for me, and I'm grateful I got to experience the best of both IMC worlds. All right, so getting back to the symbols, I've discussed the crayon, the path, so now let me talk about the moon that travels with Harold throughout his story. In today's context, think of the traveling moon as a representation of the values most important to you that are omnipresent. But if the moon starts to fade, it's probably time to ask yourself tough but very important questions. Are you in the right place or with the right people? Are you feeling truly fulfilled? Do you believe in what you're doing? I've had to ask myself those same questions. When I made the decision to leave coaching, I struggled. My moon was dimming, so I thought maybe I had made the wrong choice. But I entered the IMC program, which helped restore the shine, thanks to all the great educators and my classmates who opened my eyes to so many new and diverse things. And IMC also helped me understand that coaching was a really valuable experience because it embodied my passions: teaching, leading, building strategies, solving complex problems, being creative. The reality was I just needed to travel with my moon into a new setting. But the onus was on me to keep drawing out my journey, and I did. I was on a new path with the same moon acting as my North Star, but my crayon was sharper and bolder than it ever had been thanks to the IMC experience. All right, so I'm going to check back in on our friend Harold. Later in the story, he draws a dragon in an effort to help protect himself, but it backfires. The dragon ends up being mean, scaring Harold, and it causes him to back away, and then he inadvertently draws himself underwater just to draw a sailboat, which guides him back to land and solid ground.